everyone, blessings and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be discussing family, specifically the 5 signs that your family could be taking advantage of you. Interesting topic, but before we get into it, subscribe to this channel if you already haven't done so. If you like this video, share it. Also hit that like button. Also, if you want to drop a comment, feel free to do so. I'm always interested in viewer feedback and what you have to say. With all that said and done, let's get into our topic at hand. The 5 signs that your family could be taking advantage of you. I decided to cover this topic because I wanted to really encourage those of you out there who are considered to be the givers in your family, the caretakers in your family, the quote unquote responsible ones in your family. If you're naturally inclined to give, if you're the type of person, you love your family, you want to look out for everyone, that's a beautiful and wonderful thing. But what sometimes happens, especially in a family unit, people who are this way, if you're the giver, if you're the caretaker, if you're the responsible one, oftentimes givers, responsible ones, and caretakers are taken advantage of. And it's very easy to do so within a family unit for a number of reasons. And I'm going to discuss some of those things in this video. So if you are the giver, the caretaker, and the responsible one in the family, I want you to look out for the 5 signs. I mean, there are more, but I'm going to just discuss the 5 ones that you could be taken advantage of, because oftentimes, if you are the giver, givers I think we have blind spots sometimes when it comes to help, because we just want to help everybody, right? But givers get blind spots, and you need to see where you might be taken advantage of, because we all should have limits, right? And it's unhealthy not to have certain limits, especially when it comes to family, because it can cause all sorts of issues for you personally and issues within your family and family unit. So we're going to discuss those signs. I want to encourage you. I also want to provide you with some information if you find yourself being taken advantage of by your family or family member, how to deal with that. So I'm going to discuss how to deal with that as well in this video. So let's get into those signs that you could be taken advantage of by your family or family member. The number 1 sign is that you only see or hear from this person or people when they need something. The only time you hear from them or see them is when they need something, right? Now, if you're like me and you come from a very large family, I mean, there's a lot of us in my family, there might be stretches of time when you may not see a family member for some time. Because of the size of your family, people live in different states and different places, or even a different country, and you may not see certain family members for a while. And if they do contact you and they might need something, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're taking advantage of you, right? I want you to look out for the pattern of this happening, right? The only time you hear from them or see them, you get a text or a phone call, or they show up at your house as if they need something. You can habitually see a pattern of that. This family member or family members could be taking advantage of you. Like, there has to be some sort of reciprocity, right? Your entire relationship with this family member can't be solely on your ability to give to them, right? There has to be a little bit of give and take. Like, does this person call you every now and again to see how you're doing? Can you depend on them for something? If you can't, and the only time you hear from them is when they want something, when they need a favor, when they need to borrow something from you, this family member could be taking advantage of you. So that's one sign. The only time you hear from them is when they need or want something. The only time you see them is when they need or want something. And it's a habitual pattern of that, okay? So that's the first sign. The second sign is that you pay for everything. You are the family's bank and ATM, especially if you are a high earner, if you are the fiscally or financially responsible one, if everyone knows that you have a lot of resources and that you have money, the expectation might be for you to pay for everything. And I'm not talking about like a nuclear family situation where maybe the husband or wife is like the sole provider, and so if you're the sole provider, and if there's one person working in the household and that's how the situation is in the household, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're being taken advantage of. No, that's your responsibility. But I'm more so talking about maybe an extended family member situation where whenever there's a family outing or there's a dinner, the expectation is because, oh yeah, you earn a lot, let so-and-so, let you pay for it. So if you constantly find yourself in a situation where you're paying for, family outings, family vacations, family dinners, you have to contribute to everything. Something goes wrong in the family, somebody needs something, they come to you, they constantly call you up. Like, there's no sharing of the financial responsibility among family members, and you're the sole person that everybody always goes to. No one ever offers or volunteers to cover certain things, when it comes to family gatherings or whatever the family situation is, when there's a funeral or someone passes away or whatever family obligation that there might be, but you're always the person that everyone goes to for the money. You're paying for everything on every occasion. Yes, they're probably taking advantage of you. Okay, so that's another thing to watch out for. It's always good to give, and you should give if you can give, but if you always find yourself in a spot where the expectation is on you to pay for everything, yeah, they're probably taking advantage of you. The number three sign is that your family, they never make sacrifices for you, but you're always expected to sacrifice for them, right? So if you can never depend on them to help you in any situation, if you need to borrow something, if you need a favor from them, you can never get it, but you're always expected to sacrifice time, resources, money, and be inconvenienced for them. You might be in a situation where you are being taken advantage of when your family never makes sacrifices for you. And I'm talking about reasonable sacrifices, not even big ones, but reasonable sacrifices to help you out. Like I said earlier, there has to be some sort of reciprocity there and to create a healthy family dynamic, So if your family never makes sacrifices for you, but they always expect for you to sacrifice, they could be taking advantage of you. The number four sign is that they shame and guilt you into doing things for them, right? When you give to people, there shouldn't be any strings attached. When you give to people, it should be out of the goodness of your heart and because they're your family and because you love them and you want to help them. That's why you should give, not because you shouldn't be feeling like, if I don't give to this family member, if I don't give to my mother, my father, or my adult children, or my aunt or my uncle or my grandparents, that they'll withdraw their love from me, or they won't speak to me, or they'll catch an attitude with me if I don't give them what they want. That is a toxic dynamic. That is a toxic situation. That is unhealthy. And it's very controlling and manipulative, right? So when you do give, you want to give from your heart. You want to give out of love. You want to give because you want to help your family. But if you feel any fear with that giving, if you feel any guilt or shame, if you're put in a position where you're supposed to do that, like if you have a parent, for example, they feel like because they gave birth to you that you're supposed to do things always just only for them, and that your world is supposed to revolve only and solely around them. And they make you feel guilty because they are your parents, or even if you're in a situation where you have adult children, or because that's your child, that you feel guilty if you don't help them, especially if it's a situation where you're being inconvenienced or you don't have the resources and you're giving at a place where you can't give, and they're putting you in a tough situation to help them out. That's a very toxic dynamic there. There shouldn't be any strings attached to your giving your love for your family member, right? There shouldn't be any shame or guilt. They shouldn't be shaming or guilting you into doing things for you. That's manipulation, that is control, and it has no place in, a healthy family unit or system, but it does exist, right? So, we can't control the family that we were born into, our family of origin. We can't control who we share our DNA with or who's in our family tree. I mean, many of us, we have wonderful family members, loving family members, and mothers and fathers and grandparents and spouses and children and aunts and uncles and cousins. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't know where we would be. Like, they're just amazing people. And then we have those family members who are the liars, the cheaters, family members who will steal from you, family members who are toxic, family members who are very dysfunctional, family members who are addicts, family members who are abusers and abusive. That exists within a family unit as well, and we have to learn how to manage and deal with them, right? Because no matter what, they're still going to be our family. But some of you, because if your family is exceptionally dysfunctional, you have a right not to deal with them, right? That is your right not to deal with them in order to be healthy for yourself, in order to look out for your own emotional, spiritual, and physical well-being, right? And there's certain family members you do have to detach yourself from, but there's certain family members and situations that you can't readily just get away from, especially in a marriage dynamic, or if it's your child, or if it's your parent, right? It gets a little tougher, right? So but going back to the sign, there shouldn't be any guilt or shame attached to your giving to them, regardless of who they are and how they operate in the family system. So there shouldn't be any guilt or shame to your giving or doing things for them. But if that does exist, that means that's going to put you in a situation to be taken advantage of, because if that exists and that dynamic is happening, that means that on some level they are controlling you. On some level they are manipulating you. And when there's control and manipulation in the mix, you're probably being taken advantage of. The fifth and final sign that you could be being taken advantage of by a family member or by your family is that they don't respect your autonomy or your individuality as a person, right? They only see you as a extended part of themselves, right? So for those of you who might be the youngest in the family, yes, I am the baby in the family. I'm the youngest in the family. It's hard, especially when you become an adult, for them to see you as an adult and as your own person, right? Especially if you have older siblings, especially if you're in a family where everyone was so much older than you, or you come from a very large family and they have nicknames for you, little so-and-so or tiny so-and-so, you have those nicknames and you're always considered to be like the little one. And it's hard for them, especially if you're in a situation where, the person has changed your pamper or changed your diaper. It's going to be tough for them as you come of age for them to see you as an individual. And if you come from a family dynamic now, culturally, the family dynamics differ, right? I'm American, I'm in the United States. So in this culture, in American culture, the emphasis is more so on the nuclear family, the parents and the dependent children, right? And that small little, there are instances, I'm from the United States, I'm an American, but I'm also from the South. So for those of you who are watching, you're Southerners, right? We tend to bring more of the extended family into the whole family unit, right? Grandma and grandpa and them, they oftentimes they might live with the family. But, if you come from a different culture, if you're from a different part of the world, if you come from an Asian culture, if you come from a Latin culture, if you come from an African culture, oftentimes it's not just a nuclear family. Like, the expectation is for you to take care of your mother and your father. The expectation is for you to, if you're an adult child, it's okay if you're 30, you're 35, still living with your parents. It's not a big deal in Asian culture, for example, right? Or if some African cultures, some Latin cultures, like the extended family, everyone lives together and it's not a big deal, right? So culturally, it depends, right? But even within that, and within your culture, you might have a hard time finding your individuality within your family unit, and for them seeing you as an individual now, as your own person with your own needs, your own responsibilities. And when those lines are blurred, oftentimes when they only see you as an extension of them, when they need something, they sort of like feel like you should drop everything, like your needs, your wants, your desire. And even if you're in a situation, especially culturally, where your extended family members are living with you, with your spouse and with your children, and let's say you have elderly parents or parents living with you, the expectation might be in a toxic situation, in a situation where you could be being taken advantage of, is for you to put their needs above your spouse's needs, above your children's needs, and even above your own needs. That is toxic, that is dysfunctional, and that often happens when maybe your family member is narcissistic, and maybe it's because they don't see you as a person and as an individual with your own needs, and there's not a lot of empathy there or care about what you might be going through and what you might need, and you're supposed to drop everything and do whatever they want or say, or carry your life the way they want you to carry your life along, right? Let's for example, if you're a younger person watching this, they may be trying to dictate your parent, for example, where you go to school or your profession or things like that. But if you're a young adult, you're your own person, and that decision should be left up to you. But in some family units that are dysfunctional, or even by some cultural norms, the expectation is for your family to have input on that, and there's you kind of like lose your autonomy within your family unit. And when you lose your autonomy, what oftentimes happens is that you get taken advantage of, and your needs, your wants, and your desires get pushed to the back burner. And what happens is that oftentimes create friction in the family. It creates resentment. It also creates unforgiveness, right? It creates a lot of anger toward the family members who are doing this to you. So those are the 5 signs that I want to share with you. Number one, they only need you when they want something. You only see them or hear from them when they need something. Number 2, you're paying for everything. Number 3, they never make sacrifices for you. Number 4, they guilt and shame you into doing things through the means of control and manipulation. And number 5, they don't respect your autonomy. So those are the signs. So how do you deal with family members who are taking advantage of you? What do? The main thing and the key to dealing with family members like this is that you have to create boundaries. You have to create boundaries. You have to draw a line. You have to set a limit, right? And that will help you if you find yourself in a situation or to prevent you from getting in a situation where you are continually being taken advantage of. You have to set a line. You have to draw a boundary. I know that's your mother. I know that's your father. I know that's your kids. I know that's your spouse. I know that's your sister. I know that's your brother. I know that's your aunt, your uncle. I know that's your grandparents. I know that's your cousins that you grew up with and you were real tight with. But there's a limit to all of that. You have to draw boundaries even with your family, and it's really hard to do that within a family unit. But it has to be done in order to create a healthy relationship with your family, in order to continue a functional relationship with your family, so you don't be put in a situation where you're not talking to your family members. So you have to draw boundaries. Boundaries are very important. I want you to know, when it comes to boundaries, number 1 is that you have a right to create boundaries with your family. And it's okay to say no. And when you say no to family members, especially if it's an unreasonable request of you, you have a right to do so. No is a complete sentence, and you have a right to say no. And when you do say no, they're not going to like it. When you do say no, you're gonna get some pushback. And when you do say no, some people might stop speaking to you or dealing with you on that level. But you do have a right to set boundaries. Number 2, when it comes to boundaries, what you need to know is that it's healthy to set boundaries. You must set boundaries with people, especially with your family members. I mean, there's certain lines that, nobody should be crossing. There's certain limits that you have to set for yourself, so that you can be healthy, so that you can function, so that you don't be dragged, so that you don't be worn out and drained from family members who might be dysfunctional. For family members who there's going to be some family members who just have a bottomless need for something, right? They're always going to need something. You're always going to have that person in the family that's always needy, right? And some family members are more needy than others, and if you can't help them, but there's a limit to all of that. But it's a healthy thing to set boundaries. Like, for example, for parents with dependent children or small children, you don't let your kid do whatever they want. You have to set boundaries, right? You have to give them a bedtime. They just can't do whatever they want, like no bedtime, go to school when they feel like it. No, there has to be a boundary set there. Running around the house, breaking things. There has to be limits even within that, when it comes to parenting, and there has to be limits when dealing with family members. So it's a healthy thing, just like it's a healthy thing for a parent to set limits and boundaries with their children so they can grow up to be decent individuals and have some self-control, and they can learn how to be social and function in a family unit. So you set those boundaries and those limits so they can learn. Other than that, they'll be out of control. You have to do the same thing, even as an adult. And with extended family, it's a healthy thing to set boundaries with them, because, boundaries, that leads me to, the third thing about boundaries is when you set them, it's a very loving thing to do. As part of loving your family members, setting a boundary with them. Sometimes it's not good to give, family members everything that they want or desire, right? Sometimes it's good to say no to them for their own well-being. When it comes to giving, and really what this video is about is giving, and limits with that. When it comes to giving, there is a way to give, especially when it comes to family, or really to anyone, especially to family. There's a way to give to your family. You give out of your heart. You give out of love, but you also don't give to the point where you can't give, right? And you also, when it comes to boundaries, you have to be clear about your boundaries, and also clear about what you're willing to give and not give, right? And but when it comes to helping family and helping family members, when you do give to family, there's a major thing you have to consider and think about. You help your family according to your current resources and your current situation. Do not give beyond that, because when you give beyond that, then you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're going to be taken advantage of. You're going to find yourself in a situation where you could create problems for your own life and for your own maybe immediate family or your own nuclear family, right? So you give to your family, especially extended family members, according to what you have, your current resource situation, and your current situation, period. That's how you give. You don't give beyond that, right? And you set very clear boundaries. This is what I'm willing to give, and that's it. You give what you can, right? Like, so for example, let's say you have some debt and maybe you're a little bit behind, but you're trying to catch up, and you have a family member that calls you up and they want you to co-sign on a car that they need, because maybe their car broke down, or they need you to co-sign on some sort of a loan. And this is a close family member, they really need you to do it. And let's say, you break down, you think they're going to pay for it, right? And you're like, they're asking this favor, maybe they'll pay for it, and you co-sign for that car, you co-sign for that loan. And lo and behold, the family member defaults on a payment, they don't pay it, and you end up, with that new responsibility on top of the debt that you already have, on top of your own responsibilities, and you just put yourself in a really bad situation trying to be helpful to a family member, right? That's an example of giving where you shouldn't be giving. You already had the debt, you already had your own situation, but you're giving a little bit more than you should in a situation where that could possibly put you in a bad financial bind. You don't want to put yourself in that sort of situation. So you give according to what you can give. So if you do have, let's say the family member comes to you and they may need some help, no, I'm not going to co-sign for you. But if you have the money to lend them, yeah, but I'm going to lend you this money. I personally don't like to lend money. I give money. So if you're like me and you're opposed to lending, but you want to, you have to give, and you give that family member, I need to borrow. They say I need to borrow $1,000, or you have the $1,000 or the $500 or the $100 to give them. Give it to them and don't think about it again. But when it comes to family and money, that could be very tricky, and oftentimes it could be a situation that you put yourself in that can cause a permanent damage to your relationship when it comes to money. So when it comes to money, I'm a little wary about that, because it could cause a permanent damage to your relationship. But if you choose to deal with your family when it comes to money, when it comes to certain types of resources, do it with caution, and know that you could be putting yourself in a situation where you may cause irreparable damage, especially if they don't pay you back, or if they borrow what have you. But you have to be very clear when you do set your boundaries with your family of what you can and cannot do. And sometimes you might set a boundary and your family will act like you didn't set the boundary, or your family will act like you didn't say no. Like, for example, a family member might need help with something and you tell them, oh, I really can't help you move, let's say move. Really can't help you move that day. And then all of a sudden, a couple of weeks later, the topic comes up again, and then the family member says, oh yeah, Sherry is gonna help you move. Yeah, Sherry will do it. She agreed to do it, and I said, I'm putting myself in a situation, I said that I couldn't do it that day. But the family member is acting like they're gaslighting you. They're acting like you said that. They're distorting reality. They're gaslighting you. They're acting like you said yes, when you actually said no. And you have to, when those things happen, you're dealing with a controlling and manipulative family member. When that happens, you have to reassert that you said no. Oh, no. I said that I could not help you move on that day. Even if they tried it, and sometimes they'll do it, and they'll bring it up in front of a whole bunch of other family members to kind of, once again, that sign, guilt and shame you into doing it, although they know you said no. But they're gonna make you say yes, and they're gonna make you do it, and they're gonna make you go against your will. That is a controlling and manipulative family member, but you have to be firm in that boundary. You can still love them and set that boundary. You can still say no and set that boundary. You can still be clear and stand on all 10 of your toes, firm on your feet, and be clear with that boundary. And it doesn't make you a bad parent. It doesn't make you a bad daughter. It doesn't make you a bad son. It doesn't make you a bad family member, bad cousin, a bad aunt, a bad uncle. It just makes you a responsible one. We all need to set our limits, even within our family unit. And sometimes if you are the giver, if you are the caretaker, if you're the responsible one and people are depending on you to do things because of the wonderful person that you are, oftentimes you could be being taken advantage of within that. Even you can be the giver. You could be the one who looks out for everyone, or do as much as you can. Don't stop being who you are. We need you in the family. We need the givers in the family. We need the caretakers. God bless you all. God bless us all who have people in the family units who are this way. But you have to, if you are a giver, if you are a caretaker, you have to look out for yourself. And you look out for yourself by setting boundaries and being clear about your boundaries, being clear about your limits, and giving only according to what you have to give. And don't go beyond that. Because if you do that, you're going to end up being very angry with family members. You're going to end up having a lot of resentment toward family members. There's going to be unforgiveness. There's going to be rifts and division within the family. It's important to set boundaries. It's okay to set boundaries. It's healthy to set boundaries, and it's a loving thing to do to set up boundaries. So that's what I want to share with you in this video, those 5 signs of that you could be being taken advantage of by certain family members. And also I share with you what to do if you find that yourself in that situation. I hope that this video has been a blessing to you and to your life. Share this video if it's been helpful to you. Maybe it could help someone else. Take care, God bless, and I will see you in the next video.